Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the channel. We have some breaking news. Darren Till is out of his fight against Jack Hermansson July 23rd in London, but we already have a replacement opponent. We are getting Jack Hermansson versus Chris Curtis, and I wanted to do a video giving my reaction, and then at the end of this video, I'm going to give you an early prediction for Hermansson versus Curtis. So first off, my initial reaction to this news, I was a little bit disappointed because, Darren Till's injured again. I wanted to see him against Jack Hermansson, and I wanted to see Darren Till return to 100% health and see what he could do within the middleweight division. But at the same time, I was super excited. Chris Curtis is getting a very much deserved massive opportunity against Jack Hermansson, ranked number 8 within the middleweight division. So I'm super excited for that. But at the same time, I think a lot of people are going to be disappointed that Darren Till is out of this fight. Darren Till has had one fight in the last 2 years. His last fight was against Derek Brunson, where he got stopped via rear naked choke. Came in looking out of shape, didn't look great in the fight, and then it came out after the fact that he went into the fight injured. And I believe he went into this fight injured because he had pulled out of so many fights beforehand, and he probably just said, I'm not pulling out of another fight. He was supposed to fight, Marvin Vettori back in April of last year, pulled out with an injury. He was supposed to fight Jack Hermansson back in December of 2020. He pulled out of that fight with an injury. His last fight before Derek Brunson in September of last year was July of 2020 against Robert Whittaker. And it's just super disappointed to see him pull out of another fight. And I don't know. This seems like it's going to be a perpetual issue for Darren Till. It just seems like he's very injury prone, and I don't know what this injury is. I know a while back, I think it was the original Jack Hermansson fight back in December of 2020. I think he broke his collarbone. That's why he pulled out of that fight. But now it's like, you can't ever, when a Darren Till fight is announced, you can't ever trust that he's actually going to show up. And I think a lot of people were interested in this particular matchup because Darren Till has been training with Khamzat Chimaev, and people were wondering what kind of improvements has Darren Till made while training with Khamzat Chimaev, because Darren Till has always been a very good striker. His problem has always been his grappling, and people were wondering, has Khamzat Chimaev really helped him shore up that hole in his game? And Jack Hermansson, while not the most elite wrestler of all time, Jack Hermansson's main strategy is to come in, take you down, and beat you up and look for a submission. And so we were going to get to see Darren Till's takedown defense against Jack Hermansson in this fight. And, it was just going to be a very compelling matchup, and it was a great co-main event for UFC London. Moving on to the new fight that I'm super excited for as well, we have Jack Hermansson versus Chris Curtis, and I couldn't be happier for Chris Curtis. This is a guy that was on Dana White's Contender Series a couple years ago, and he got a spectacular finish in the fight, and Dana White did not give him a contract. And on, just a slap in the face, they gave Greg Hardy a contract on this very same episode, which I think is absolutely despicable. Chris Curtis ends up going on a 8-fight win streak in his last 8 fights, and 3 of those being in the UFC. Finally got his opportunity last November against Phil Hawes. He stepped in on short notice, and a lot of people thought Chris Curtis was going to lose this fight, especially considering he stepped in on short notice. He finishes Phil Hawes in the first round, and then not only does he do that, and Phil Hawes was an up-and-coming guy at middleweight. A lot of people thought maybe Phil Hawes could eventually work his way into the top 15 of the middleweight division. After that, he steps in on short notice again just a couple weeks later against Brendan Allen. And Brendan Allen, another up-and-coming guy at middleweight. And a lot of people were doubting Chris Curtis in this fight as well. Chris Curtis goes out there and does not only win, he gets another stoppage against Brendan Allen, an amazing performance. And after that, people realized this guy belongs in the UFC, and he got a fight against Rodolfo Vieira. That was his last fight just a couple weeks ago, June 25th. So less than 2 weeks ago, he fought Rodolfo Vieira, and he put on a great performance where he pretty much stuffed all the takedowns of Rodolfo Vieira and just outstruck him the entire fight. And I believed after this fight, he deserved a ranking spot. He did not get it for whatever reason, and now it doesn't matter because he's getting a massive fight against Jack Hermansson, who's currently ranked number 8, and Jack Hermansson's coming off a loss against none other than Sean Strickland, who is one of Chris Curtis's main training partners. So if anyone has the game plan to beat Jack Hermansson, it is Sean Strickland, and Chris Curtis is training with him every day. And, you know, Jack Hermansson, while he hasn't done a lot in the last few years, and he's been trading wins and losses, his last win was against Edmund Shabazian in May of last year. Before that, he lost a unanimous decision against Marvin Vettori, which was an amazing fight. If you haven't seen Jack Hermansson versus Marvin Vettori, great fight. Before that, he beat Kelvin Gastelum in probably his best win, a first-round submission. I mean, Jack Hermansson is a legit top 10 middleweight, and Chris Curtis now finally gets that chance to prove that he belongs in the top 10 of the middleweight division. And not only that, this is going to sound crazy, but because of the redundancy of the middleweight division, you have Adesanya, who has 2 wins over Vettori. He has 2 wins over Whitaker. He beat Cannonier. Now he's going to fight Alex Pereira. If he defeats Alex Pereira, Chris Curtis could be 1 fight away from a potential title shot after Jack Hermansson. Let's say he goes out there and finishes Jack Hermansson and then gets another big fight after that. Let's say against the winner of maybe Rockhold, Paulo Costa. I'm just throwing out hypotheticals here. I think Chris Curtis, including the Jack Hermansson fight, could be 2 fights away from a title shot if Adesanya continues to win. That just goes to show you how the middleweight division is, and this is a massive opportunity for Chris Curtis. And as far as an early prediction for this fight, I am going with Chris Curtis to win. I think Chris Curtis will probably win this fight by maybe like a 3rd round TKO. I think Jack Hermansson, you know, his main strategy is to go out and take you down, hold you down, look for submissions, look for ground and pound. And Chris Curtis has had some trouble in the past with grapplers. But Jack Hermansson, I just don't think he's that elite of elite type grappler. He doesn't have the best takedowns. And Chris Curtis has ever-improving takedown defense. We've seen him against Rodolfo Vieira, who is a massive middleweight. Rodolfo Vieira shot like something like 20, 25 takedowns. Chris Curtis stuffed every single one of those takedowns. And if Chris Curtis is able to stuff the takedowns of Jack Hermansson, I believe that Chris Curtis is a superior striker. So I basically believe that Chris Curtis will kind of start out a little bit slow, worried about the takedowns of Jack Hermansson. He'll be stuffing them. You know, Jack Hermansson will get more and more desperate. And as he gets more confident stuffing the takedowns, I think he'll open up more with the striking. And I think eventually he will find a shot, you know, rock Jack Hermansson, follow him to the ground, and finish him off with ground and pound. And I think Chris Curtis, this will be a massive win for him against the number 8 ranked guy in the division. And I can't wait to see this fight. And it's only a couple weeks away. That's the best thing about this fight. It's July 23rd, so it's not that far away. But let me know what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to like the video, and thank you so much for watching.